Yeah, I'm Simon Acton, so I've travelled here today from Ireland. As you can probably tell, I'm not actually Irish, but I've been living in Dublin myself for the last 9 years, and I've been involved for the last 4 years with the Irish EV Owners Association. So just going to give a flavour today of the sort of work that we're doing, who we're working with, and also what the opportunities might be for various companies coming into the Irish market, because obviously a lot of the focus here is on what's going on in the UK. So who are the Irish EV Owners Association? So basically the association was established in 2015 by basically a collective of early EV adopters in Ireland who recognised that if EV adoption was going to succeed on a large scale in Ireland, that we were going to need to get a lot more involvement from our government and from charging infrastructure providers in particular to build what we need. So it was really set up to help represent the owners that were there on the bleeding edge at the time, and for all owners and future owners moving forward, and to facilitate that wide uptake that we all hope to see in the future. So we work currently with public and private sector stakeholders. So for example, I meet regularly with our Department of Transport in Ireland and also the Grants Authority based there, who administer grants around for vehicles and for the charging infrastructure and so on. And we also organise events. So as you can see, one of the pictures there is a recent EV meet we had at one of our newly built hubs this year. So that was a great get-together, but we also do things like I travel to COP as well. I'll show a bit more about that in a minute. So we're basically a voluntary organisation, so not for profit, and I'm the chair, as I said, but I have a number of fellow committee members, and we work together and interact with all these different stakeholders. We currently have around 2,000 members, which is probably about 10% of the EV community currently in Ireland, and 15% of those paid members. Obviously, we keep an eye on what's going on in other territories like Norway, where they have a big association, and we sort of have an ambition to grow our organisation in the same way. We have over 6,000 people engaged on our social media platforms, mostly on Facebook and Instagram, also LinkedIn. And from this year, we've been taking on corporate memberships. So we have the organisations you see listed there involved to help us out with our funding so we can do more work. Yeah, that's really just a summary of who we're working with. As I said, our Department of Transport, ESB cars is our main charging infrastructure provider in Ireland, but there are other organisations involved now, such as EasyGo, which is an Irish company, and they're building their own network in Ireland as well. Faster is a project which is also working in Northern Ireland and the border regions, so that we're building more infrastructure there, and various other media and brand organisations that we work with, as well as the organisations here that represent EV owners like excuse me, EVA England and EVA Scotland. So yeah, as I said, we recently went on a road trip to COP in Glasgow. So that was me with fellow committee member Peter Bracken, and we travelled. Peter actually started off on the west coast of Ireland there in Castlebar in County Sligo, County Mayo, sorry. And yeah, we travelled up. He picked me up in Dublin, and we travelled up and across the Irish Sea from the north over to Scotland, and then drove on to Glasgow and Falkirk. And we were part of a group that was called the Road to COP26, and drivers came from all over Europe. So the idea being to basically demonstrate the capabilities of EVs to the general public and say, hey, look, EVs are here and they can do long journeys, so get on board. So that was a great experience. So how are we progressing with EV adoption? And there's just a couple of key metrics there, I suppose. On the left, this is basically, you can see we're doing well with adoption levels. That's going back as far as 2010, when the first EVs were registered in Ireland. As you can see, to date this year, we've registered just just under 9,000 EVs. So we're getting onto that hockey stick type curve of adoption. One important thing to note there is, and you'll see two different colours there on the graph, Ireland has been historically very reliant on the UK for import of vehicles, and that's something that was growing from an EV perspective very nicely up until Brexit got in the way. So we have some challenges there because it's now a lot more expensive post-Brexit to import used EVs, which is somewhat damaging our adoption journey at the moment. In terms of the charging infrastructure, you can see there the ZapMap map looks pretty good, but obviously there are challenges. You'll notice the clustering around Dublin, and a lot of people would see EV adoption in Ireland at the moment as a fairly Dublin-centric thing, which is not necessarily the case, but certainly fair to say if you compared that map to the UK, you'd see that particularly when we get over to the West Coast, there isn't really enough charging infrastructure. So that's something that we're working on and hoping to encourage organisations from the UK and further beyond to help come and build charging infrastructure in Ireland as well. So overall, we have about 2,000 public chargers at the moment, of which about 200 are rapid chargers. So there's a long way to go. So I always think in terms of challenges and opportunities, we break it down into three main pillars. Education is key. One of the things we very much like to do within the organisation is try and get the message out to the general public about EVs and dispel some of that misinformation that I'm sure we're all aware of. Events and roadshows are things that we certainly will need to do more of, and certainly looking at events that went on around COP recently, we'd like to get a lot more of those sort of things going in Ireland. Experience centres as well. I'm sure many of you are aware of the Experience Centre in Milton Keynes, where people can go and experience EVs in a non-sales environment, which is crucial for a lot of people who don't feel comfortable going in to see dealers. There's also a similar centre in Scotland, the Arnold Clark Innovation Centre. So those are the sorts of things that we want to encourage our government to build as well. As I said, media campaigns tackling putting the right information out there and misinformation, and crucially industry skills training, because there's a huge challenge ahead of us in transitioning mechanics and other people working in the automotive industry who don't have the requisite skills at the moment to work on EVs, and that's something we need to push through our schools, tech colleges and universities and so on. Then we've got pricing. A lot of people would imagine, and it's true globally at the moment, that EVs are just too expensive. I'll come on to this a bit more in a moment, but we do have grants and incentives to help that out. For example, in Ireland, you can currently get around €10,000 up to €10,000 off a new EV, depending on the cost. That's capped at a certain level, so we don't offer it on high-end cars like Teslas and so on, because those sort of people don't need really help from the government. So we try and focus it on the more affordable level. As I said, our fleet at the moment is currently quite small, around 20,000, just over 20,000 fully electric EVs on the road. So we do need to build that fleet, and we do need to find ways to supplement our fleet by bringing in right-hand drive vehicles from elsewhere, and really that is the UK. So that's an opportunity for people to come in and help that journey. And one of the things that's true globally is that we need to ensure a just transition, so EVs for everyone. At the moment, it's seen very much as a privilege to own an EV, and it's seen by a lot of less wealthy people as something that they might aspire to but think they'll never get to. So we need to ensure that the used market is capable as well. And then there's the charging infrastructure, of course. So there are big challenges there, because a lot of us will know, owning EVs, the best place to be charging is at home, but 30 to 40% of our population can't do that because they might live in an apartment or somewhere without off-street parking. So we also need to diversify and right-size the public charging infrastructure to support that. and we need to future-proof it to basically make sure that it can be maintained and upgraded appropriately as standards improve and charging rates improve. So this is really sort of coming on to say what I was saying a minute ago about the model variety that we have in the marketplace at the moment. These are all fantastic cars. They're also very expensive cars, which means that they're just not accessible to a lot of people at the moment. So one of the cars that we're looking forward to seeing in Ireland is something like this, the Dacia Spring, which ought to come in around €17,000, I believe it is, in France. So these are the sort of cars we need to see more of, and many of us, like myself, as car enthusiasts, like to see all the others, but there is obviously a need for more affordable vehicles. And certainly on that front, we need to support the used market. And my main job when I'm not working for IEVOA is I run a business selling used EVs, so this is something very close to my heart. And whilst older EVs do have shorter ranges, for many people they're still appropriate. We carried out a recent survey where we found that most people travel less than 20 kilometers a day in their driving, so they could quite happily live with all of these cars you see here, which would be available for, between 10 and 20,000 euros in our market. So yeah, there's a shameless plug for my business, Next Eco Car. So thank you very much for your time today. It's been great to be invited here. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. All my contact details there. Thank you.